So we're working underneath here. It's going to be a little difficult to see. We're working under the chassis, under here. Putting a plate on this surface, and we're putting some gussets in.
So you're going to be like sitting down there?
Yes. It's going to be awesome.
So like welding and stuff?
Yep.
I might have to go put on my work clothes.
We're back.
Did you just give yourself an air shower?
Yes. I feel better. It's cooling off. We're down to about 94 degrees. Back in action. We talked about Little Jewel a little bit, but we're still working on this. If you remember, we did this whole tunnel mamma jamma, waiting on the bushing still for the shifter rod. A couple people had some good ideas about maybe making this replaceable or removable. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Still need some more strengthening. That's going to go down here. I took the liberty of making some templates and cut some pieces of steel. Basically, we're going to plate the bottom of this tunnel, and then we're going to gusset. So I'm going to take the same heavy plate, plate the bottom of this, and then run a gusset triangulated up into there. It'll be mucho strongo. This is all the fun stuff that nobody really needs to see. I traced the bottom of that chassis tunnel, and it came out in a shape like this. It'll all make sense in a couple moments. This is heavy, 1/4 inch, because that's all I had. You'll notice a chunk missing from the plate on the table. Pretty much it. Duplicated that from that to that. Then these are going to go from the car. Oops. That goes like that, and that goes like that 2 times. That's very strong. We're losing a lot of structure of the stock Volkswagen because we're going to put that fiberglass cap on, so only a partial remnant of the roof rails will be in place. So I'm taking all of this heavy metal and putting that structure down into the chassis tunnel. So a little heavy on the bottom end, but very strong since we're going to lose some of that. There's also a lot of rust, so I'm just starting to build back with very strong stuff. This is just redundant welding stuff. The fun's going to happen in a little minute, as soon as we get this welded in.
So what's been going on, Ian? People want to know.
It's summertime. We keep saying this in every video, but it's starting to wear me out. It was 111 one day. I know folks in Phoenix are hitting 120. We're out here.
We live without air conditioning, mainly.
Mainly, yeah. We have a little cooler in the dog zone, and our cats are on vacation.
They're at Grandma's house in the mountains.
Up in the hills where it's a little cooler. But people have talked about the Portacool and why I don't have that on.
And why?
One reason is for noise, and then the other reason is when it's so hot in this shop, it becomes like an icy blast, and it's very effective, but it kind of irritates me because I prefer the fan. Like that large fan, moving air is plenty, because you get a chill sometimes just from moving air. It's so hot.
And we heard somebody about the burlap, which is a really great idea. All these things cost money.
Yeah, and still, like, I wouldn't, the Portacool is awesome, but it was freezing me. It's like, I'd prefer to stay hot. All right, here we are, in the thick of it. So, for those that are not experienced in welding in this position, you're going to not want to get any sparks on your lap, if you feel me. So this is where caution is king.
And Jamie is sitting on the outside on a mat with her welding helmet.
With the welding helmet on. So,
well,
right,
yeah, Ian's been busy, y'all. We're trying to get these videos out. few people have commented that we're getting boring.
Hey, life is boring. Get used to it.
Right?
Enjoy the small opportunities of joy. Life in general is pretty boring.
Right? We took a little time off, a little vacay. Plus, it was 106.
It's quite warm.
So, yeah, we're not going anywhere, y'all.
Might go get another adult beverage. That means I'll be right back. Alright, so we got this. Yeah, so this plate will go into place like such. Let me see if this is even. Side to side. Pretty close. There it is. Again, and up against the other plate. So Jamie's not coming in here with the camera, but imagine, if you will, a plate stuck up there, ready to be welded in. That's exactly what it looks like. Alright, so this is in place. You get some tack welds on it. Set. Be sure to turn yourself away from liquid hot metal. Alright, I got that tacked. More heat into it. Get it stuck. Alright, that is good and strong.
I'm over here behind you.
Here, give me the camera.
Huh?
Hand it under. I'll take a good pic.
This is gonna start moving. You gotta hold that thing steady.
Well, hopefully we can. Oh no, we're looking at me.
Yeah,
Hi.
you're looking at you.
Aha! That's what it looks like. All right, so that's that. You can see from this angle the gussets and what it does for the structure. So you can imagine the strength of the tunnel coming through here like that and being spread out. So instead of just attaching this to the stamped, more of a sheet metal piece, I gusseted it to this heavy 1/4-inch plate that grabs all the way around. So as every good welder says, that ain't going nowhere.
So I have a few questions.
Yes.
I'm going to come up here and talk to you. So, when the line went bzzz all the way down, why was that? Was that because how you had said you let the weld drip down?
Well, I was welding vertical down, so it wasn't so much dripping as it was just kind of pushing into place. The heavier steel allows me to just run a solid bead. Whereas with the sheet metal, in the beginning, you heard me attaching the heavy piece to the thin piece. So I was spotting it. That's where you heard the buzz.
Mm-hmm.
So I was putting in repetitive beads on top of each other instead of trying to burn a straight weld bead. Helps control the heat. So when you're welding thicker stuff, you just go right in.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
that answers my question. And then
Yeah.
my other question is, with this gusset down here, I know you said in the beginning of the video, but what is its purpose? I don't really understand. So like the bottom of the car doesn't fall out?
Basically.
Oh, okay. In a nutshell.
In a nutshell, the gussets are put in place so the bottom of the car doesn't fall out. And the top stays up.
I'm so smart.
It's perfectly spoken.
So
That was just the boring part. The fun part is up front. Now that I got this in place, I feel confident enough that I could put tires back on it and put it on the ground and roll it around 6 inches lower than it was.
Ooh.
Obviously not strong enough to drive, but to get it back off the table for sure. In the rear, in the front, there's a whole other trip, man.
I want to see.
In the other video, I mentioned I have a full lowered front beam. It's got adjusters in the center. It's got drop spindles. It's all set to go. It's over there on the table. Oh, it's actually cooling off. It's in the shade.
Oh, hold on. Let me look. Don't mind my bike.
It's got new shocks, all new bushings, new bearings. The brake rotors are rusty just because it was sitting, but it's fresh. So
Sweet.
that's a substantially dropped beam as it is. The newer fad is to have a narrowed front beam, but I'm not doing that because we're running custom fenders. We could do anything. So this beam is set to come out. I got it all unbolted, and then I got the pan cleaned up because we're going to do a little hoo-ha to the front pan. They call it the Napoleon hat. Or maybe they're talking about the back. So many terms. So look in here, I cleaned all this up. I took a little pneumatic chisel. That's what all those little rat-a-tat marks are. I got all of that tar or whatever kind of sealant that would be on those seams off. Took a quick wire brush on a drill. You might be wondering why I'm talking about that section of the car, but we got a little trick. So when you put a really lowered front beam on it, the possibility to lose the term castor in the front steering and suspension is what we're getting into. The castor angle is represented by your kingpin angle. This is a ball joint suspension, so there is no kingpin per se, but the angle of these two ball joints, see, they do that, and then as the suspension rises and falls, they swivel in a socket, kind of like your shoulder. So the angle of these two is engineered pretty well through the suspension travel in stock form. But when you lower it, what happens is you'll see these are spinning on an arc. So when they become radically lower, these arms, they're swinging, they're coming up, they're rotating on this angle of pivot. So when they get really low, you tend to lose some of the castor angle. And the easiest way to explain that is you've all been to the supermarket. You know when you get that bum shopping cart and it's going,
Yes.
that is what happens to cars when the castor angle is incorrect. It's called the death wobble. You get it on skateboards, you get it on motorcycles. You don't want to get it on a car. So yeah, the castor angle corrects the potential for those tires to get all skittish.
Because aren't casters, they're part of a wheel? I know this is a redundant
Look at
question.
that stool. That's a castor wheel.
Oh, okay. So when they're able to move like that.
See, they follow.
Oh.
Because there's castor.
Okay.
See, you got your angle of mount here.
Yeah.
And then the wheel, the hub, the axle is back here. So it always follows.
Right.
So the shopping cart is wrong. It's going.
Yeah.
That's what the car will do.
So you don't want that to happen on a car.
So in a bug, everybody says, oh, you just put castor shims. For sure, you can put castor shims. But my friend Derek, he's Unique Coaches on Instagram. You should check out his cars. He came up with this cool idea that lowers it even more. And you don't have to do anything. You have to cut the chassis, but it gets the car way low. And it's like a perfect storm, apparently. He's done it to 2 of his vehicles, and they ride wonderful, is how he explained it. So sort of like I cut the back of the chassis, and to speak in hot rod terms, Z'd it up. I raised up the rear of the pan in the front because my suspension angles are already adjusted for really low ride height. I'm going to cut the tunnel again. I'm going to cut the tunnel again in the front.
Ooh.
And take about a 1/4 to a 3/8 inch notch out of the top of this tube like a pie cut. So that will take this pan and raise the front of it. So in effect, achieving the same thing with the front beam, the castor shims would rotate the beam bottom outward. This is just rotating the whole thing. No extra parts. I've never done this before. Do I look nervous?
You look like you are living in the Mojave.
Yeah.
In the middle of summer.
So that's what we're about to do. I got all the bolts off of this front beam. See, I knocked the tie rods out, brake lines are off, master cylinder's out, steering's disconnected. You could see it's ready for a show. You can see these 4 bolts I'm currently undoing with my fingers. That is not typical. You will have been there sometimes with a ratchet or an impact wrench, but I've already covered that. That one's still sticking. That's really to get the front suspension off. It all comes off in one piece pretty much. You'll have to take the longer tie rod off to get it away from the body a little bit easier, but at that, it's disconnected, those 4 bolts. It's kind of like with the engine with their 4 bolts. All right, so I'm just gonna raise this up a wee bit. Yeah, you can see that front beam coming right out. There it is. Cool. Ooh, speedometer cable. It's always something. All right, so like I said, easy peasy. All right, now I'm gonna let this back down. And it's gonna do a twofold thing. The weight of the car is gonna help close that gap I'm about to cut. But for now, I'll leave the floor jack somewhat in place. Put a little pressure. Yeah, kind of like that. All right, I'm gonna get the grinder and start cutting. I'm gonna make some relief cuts in here. I'm gonna leave a little corner attached because I don't want to mess with our alignment. So I'm gonna pretty much cut through the majority of this, right up and around the top of that. And then I'll cut a gap open. So now with this being cut almost free, look how flexible it is. See that? Look at the gap. Right? So I'm going to cut open a pie cut. I'm going to start maybe about 3/8 of an inch. From 3/8 to nothing. And when I lower the car, that gap's going to shut. I'm going to weld it. How do I know what 3/8 is without a ruler?
How do you know what 3/8 is without a ruler?
I don't. But I'm still going to cut it. Can you dig? I'm that much of a risk taker. All right, now when I drop the car, see what happens. Watch that gap. All right, let's see if it shuts. Here we go. Look at that.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm going to do a little more cut right through there, and we're good. It is. Super. And just weld her back together. I'm not saying this is appropriate for every car, but we're working on pretty loose parameters. May run into a little issue readjusting the steering column. Gas tank may have to be shimmed up a little bit. I don't know. We're going to work through it. But that looks to me like it dropped it 3/4 of an inch. You know, I'm looking at the stock brackets. You know, the front beam brackets. You can see now this frame head is quite a bit above them. So yeah, it gives you a drop and it gives you a little more castor angle. Not a bad deal for 2 minutes of cutting. All right, so I got over the top of that tunnel all welded. Now I'm going to just kind of spot in these sheet metal gussets. This one seems to have flexed a little, so I'm going to give it a little hammer. There it is. Spot that in the center and work it out. So you could see, just reattach everything. That's the modification. So that's kind of the story. Just re-weld everything right through. And look at it from the side view. You can see that it is kicked up a little bit. Because every car looks cool with a rake. See how it's just kicked up just a little bit?
That's cool. Good work, Ian. I'm proud of you.
Hmm?
I said, good work, Ian. I'm proud of you.
Thanks. All in a day's work. So next time, you know, of course, everybody's, oh, let's put it on the tires and see what it looks like, right? No. We're staying on the table because look at this door. Firstly, you can see right through the car. Secondly, here, stand on this side. I invite you to witness Exhibit A. Does that look attached?
Not really.
Same on the other side. Look at that hole in the car. Neither A-pillars are attached to the rocker panel. Look at that.
Wow.
Same story. We're going to get in there and fix that before we mess, because if we pick this car up again, I don't want to twist anything. We got a lot of material taken out. Right now it's braced on the chassis jig square. I'm going to fix that stuff before we move it. Coming up next, it's Universal Volkswagen problem. You got a bug, you've probably seen this. We're going to fix it together. See you next time. See, the doors don't shut.